What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Ventures Tower. We must talk about the Echo Show and the future of the Marvel Netflix characters in the MCU. There are some insane rumors about what's going on with characters like Jessica Jones, characters like Bullseye, Kingpin, and Daredevil himself from the Netflix universe kind of coming into the MCU. And this all seems to center around the Echo Show. So I don't really know why the Echo Show is going to be this big of a catalyst for the future of a lot of these characters, but it is. We've actually been talking about this for something like 6 to 8 months as it was first popped out as a rumor, I believe by Daniel Richtman, that a lot of those characters are going to reprise their role for the Echo Show. And this could be Daredevil, it could be the character of Bullseye, could be Foggy Nelson, could be Karen Page, and definitely will be Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. But before we get into some of the juicy rumors and just crazy stuff that I've heard, I want to talk about Echo as a character in the comic books and the changes they made from that comic book character to the one we saw in the Hawkeye show, because I think in this little, history lesson, sort of, looking at the differences, we will get a frame for how to view the Echo Show and what they're going to do with Daredevil and Echo moving forward. So in the comic books, Maya Lopez, aka Echo, has a really interesting history. She has history with Matt Murdock, Daredevil. She has history with Kingpin. She fooled around with Wolverine and goes over in Japan with Wolverine. She has history with Hawkeye and Ronin. She even has history with the character of Elektra, and obviously has a lot of history with Kingpin. In the comics, Maya is adopted by Kingpin, but she thinks that Daredevil was the one that killed her father, and Fisk puts her on the path of getting vengeance for her father's death, going after Daredevil, but he also sets up Matt Murdock and Maya and sort of tricks them into falling for each other and starting a relationship. This is all kind of done to just mess with Matt. And in the comic books, Maya discovers sort of weaknesses of Daredevil and lures him into a fight where he can't really use his echolocation and his hearing powers, and so she ends up basically beating him, and she's literally about to kill Daredevil, and then she uncovers the mask and realizes that it's Matt Murdock, the man she's come to love. She freaks out, learns the truth about Kingpin, and then goes and shoots him in the face. But obviously in the Hawkeye show with the character of Maya Lopez, they changed this a lot. I mean, first of all, it's not Matt Murdock, but the Ronin persona that Hawkeye once had that she blames for the death of her father. And yeah, she's hell-bent on figuring out who Ronin is and taking Ronin out. And so in that sense, they replace Daredevil from her comic book version by Ronin in the TV show. But what's weird about that is that it's actually Maya that has the Ronin persona before Clint Barton in the comics. She goes to Japan, messes around with the hand, and becomes Ronin, and eventually passes the role of Ronin on to Hawkeye. And this is during the events of Secret Invasion, after Maya herself uncovers that the Elektra in Japan with the hand is not the real Elektra and is instead a Skrull. So again, keep some of that stuff in mind as we talk about these new leaks and the information out there, and this is wild. So some of the stuff's coming from a very trusted source of mine, dude, trust me, bro, but some of it is also out there via the Weekly Planet, and I didn't really catch this, but apparently they're talking about a lot of the same stuff that I'm talking about. So this is kind of combined stuff that I've heard from sources and stuff that they are talking about, okay? So the first most important thing here that's really weird about the Echo Show is that apparently Echo and Kingpin are going to be working together again. And when I first heard this, I was like, oh, hell nah, fam. There ain't no way. There's no way that makes any sense. I can't believe it. Don't do it. But apparently, yes, they're going to be working together, and this is because there's a new enemy, a new threat that's going to sort of force them to work together to hold on to the pieces of organized crime in New York, and that enemy is Matt Murdock, or Daredevil, right? It's just going to be known as Daredevil. The other really cool thing about this is apparently Daredevil in this show is going to wear his black suit with the red Daredevil logo, very similar to what he wears in the Shadowlands time in comics, where he's in charge of the hand, but I don't know that he'll be in charge of the hand in the show. In fact, I was told he's not going to be possessed by a demon or anything crazy like that. It's just going to be that he's in this suit. But I kind of love the idea of Daredevil coming in as this big threat, taking out organized crime in New York and sort of forcing Maya and Kingpin to work together. Now, to add into this, another thing that I heard that's really crazy is Bullseye is going to be in the Echo show, and it's going to be the same actor that played him in the Netflix series. Wilson Bethel, the guy that played Bullseye on Netflix, will be returning to the role of Bullseye in this show, and that's incredibly freaking interesting. Now, some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about next is coming from the Weekly Planet. They said that you're going to have 3 episodes with Daredevil in the Echo series. Again, in his Shadowlands costume, which is freaking awesome. They're going to be teaming up against him. Fisk is in 4 episodes of Echo, and the show's going to lead him in a place where he's going to run for mayor of New York City. And as another weird thread for the show, apparently Matt Murdock is looking for Jessica Jones in the Echo show, and we may lead to a place where he finds her, or maybe that will be what happens in the Daredevil show, will be him like looking for Jessica Jones or something like that. And there's just so much craziness going on with this show. Okay, on top of all of this coming in the Echo show, of course it's rumored that you're going to see Daredevil in the She-Hulk show, and he's going to be wearing his yellow and red costume in the She-Hulk show, and will be in at least 3 episodes. So that's wild, man. They're doing a ton of work with Matt Murdock, with Charlie Cox as Daredevil, and I freaking love it. So let's kind of take all these rumors and mix them together with comic book stuff and talk about what we think is happening. This is so interesting to me because recently in comic books, there was a line, I believe it was Devil's Reign, where Kingpin does become mayor of New York City. And it's crazy, dude. Like, he outlines superheroes or outlaws superheroes. It's really, really bad for superheroes in New York. It was an incredible storyline and a really, really interesting way to use the Wilson Fisk character. And currently in the MCU, if you're gonna do something with Wilson Fisk, I say do something like this. Go crazy with it. And having Fisk be the mayor of New York for like multiple projects or multiple things going on in the MCU, I am totally freaking here for it, dude. I also love the idea of Daredevil being some kind of a crazy threat that's going to push Maya to be working with Kingpin again, and I'm really intrigued on what it's going to take to make that relationship mend and how it's going to look moving forward. And although we don't know the status quo of Matt in the MCU, perhaps he's looking for Jessica Jones to help him clear his name or clear the name of Daredevil for the crimes he commits, or rather the crimes that Bullseye commits pretending to be him in Daredevil Season 3. I heard that this is one of the main reasons as to why he's going to wear the different suits, because his image rather was damaged as being the devil of Hell's Kitchen. Now he wants to be more like Daredevil in these different costumes, right? So that could be a thread there, which is kind of intriguing. I do wonder if the show will do the relationship between Matt Murdock and Echo. That could be really intriguing and maybe even be weirdly set up by Wilson Fisk to like further push her against him. Like maybe in a sense she's sort of giving him another chance, or like seeing him as a reasonable person, and she's ultimately manipulated again and like really treated badly, and that will finally push her to kind of be on like Daredevil's side or like work with Daredevil. So I don't know, man, that could be kind of interesting to see the relationship thing forge, but if he's only in 3 episodes, it kind of seems unlikely to me. Probably just using him as more of like this kind of villain, this driving force for the plot, where maybe he's taking out all of these criminals and really like removing crime from New York City in the wake of the blip or whatever. And that's kind of intriguing. Maya's still having an affinity or still wanting to help out a lot of her own people, right? Because she's still a gangster and she still has all these connections, and that's her father's thing and all this stuff. So that kind of thing could be really, really cool. And Daredevil presenting a thread to that is an interesting plot line. And of course, after the Echo show, Daredevil's said to have his own series. I wonder if Maya will be a part of that. I wonder what's going on with the actual Daredevil series. But man, they seem really keen on using these Netflix characters, including Jessica Jones, in the MCU storylines. And that's freaking great, because I loved those shows over on Netflix. And I just think there's a lot of goodness that can be sort of brought out from that stuff. And look, I am one of those people that was more or less disappointed with the way they use Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye. Like, there's just not enough of him, and I want to see him being like totally badass. And even though it was kind of cool that like he goes Super Saiyan and like rips off the door and does all this crazy stuff, at the end of the day, what makes Kingpin is his just like ruthlessness and like what they did in the Netflix show where like you don't even speak his name and it's like really mysterious and all that. Like that feels right for the character of Wilson Fisk as Kingpin. If he does run as mayor, he will separate himself from this criminal stuff. And even though he has this checkered history and maybe a lot of people will question his background, he will present himself as a legitimate businessman to become the mayor. And I'm loving the way this thread and the way they're pulling this together. And I'm super excited for where it's all going to go. So guys, craziness coming for Marvel. What do you make of this? What do you make of Daredevil being an Echo? Daredevil in the black suit, Shadowland type stuff going on. Fisk and Echo working together. Daredevil looking for Jessica Jones, Fisk becoming mayor. I mean, this stuff sounds absolutely amazing to me, and I think it's going to set up even more fun stuff, but I definitely want to know what you think about it, so let me know in the comment section below.